A letter cost 1 penny in 1840 London. By 1930, that system had collapsed entirely, and nobody saw the economic trap being set. May 1837. London. The postal system operated on a principle that seems alien now. The recipient paid for incoming mail, not the sender. This meant a letter arriving at your door came with a bill attached. You could refuse it. Most people did. Merchants lost orders. Families couldn't afford to stay in touch. The system worked against communication itself. A schoolteacher named Rowland Hill noticed something. He watched people refuse letters constantly. He did the math. If postage cost dropped dramatically to 1 penny per letter, volume would spike so high that total revenue might actually increase even at the lower rate. He published a pamphlet outlining the idea. It was radical. 1840, the penny post launched. A single penny prepaid by the sender covered any letter within Britain. The results vindicated Hill's theory. Mail volume tripled in the first year, then tripled again. The post office, faced with this explosion, suddenly needed infrastructure it didn't have. Here's what Hill and the reformers didn't fully anticipate. The system created a hidden cost structure. Moving mail at 1 penny meant the post office had to absorb the gap between revenue and the actual cost of sorting, transporting, and delivering millions of letters daily. That gap grew. The post office compensated by raising rates. In 1864, the penny became insufficient. In 1901, postage doubled. By 1918, it had doubled again. Each increase sparked public outcry. Letters were supposed to cost 1 penny. That was the promise. Now they didn't. But here's the mechanism most people missed. The post office couldn't openly say the system is unprofitable. Instead, it created new fee categories. Parcels cost more, express mail cost more, regional delivery cost more. The single price model fractured into a complex tariff system. Simplicity became complexity without anyone noticing the transition. By the 1920s, the penny post was dead in everything but name. A first-class letter cost 2 pence. Working-class families felt the squeeze most. A daughter living in Manchester couldn't afford to write home as often. A shopkeeper's written orders took a bigger bite from margins. Communication, which the penny post was supposed to democratize, became stratified by class again. What the post office faced was a classic subsidy trap. Once you promise a service at an artificially low price, you can't raise it without political backlash. But you can't sustain it without going bankrupt. The only escape is to hide the increase inside a new system of surcharges and categories. Transparency dies. The post office wasn't malicious. It was trapped. Demand had genuinely exceeded the economic model. 1 penny couldn't cover the cost of a universal service. But the political commitment to the penny post was so strong that openly raising prices seemed impossible, so the service fragmented instead. 1930s, the penny post officially ceased. A basic letter now cost 3 pence. The system had transformed from a single, transparent price into a tiered structure. Slow delivery was cheaper, fast delivery cost more. Parcels, packets, and printed matter each had separate rates. The simplicity was gone. What this reveals is an economic truth that still governs consumer services today. A business can't sustain a service below its true cost indefinitely. It either raises the price transparently, risking customer revolt, or it hides the increase in complexity. Complexity looks like choice. It's often just opacity. The penny post didn't fail because the idea was wrong. It failed because the economics were unsustainable at that price point. Hill's calculation that volume would offset lower margins was correct, but he hadn't accounted for the cost of scaling infrastructure to handle that volume. The math worked on paper, reality was different. There's another layer. The post office was a government monopoly. It couldn't fail. So when costs exceeded revenue, the government covered the gap through general taxation. Citizens paid for mail they didn't use. Farmers subsidized urban delivery. Rural areas subsidized cities. Cross-subsidization was built into the system from the start, but nobody called it that. By hiding the true cost inside complexity, the post office also hid who was actually paying. A merchant paying 3 pence per letter bore the cost directly. A rural farmer whose mail cost more to deliver also bore it. But the subsidy structure meant that costs were diffused, hidden, invisible. Accountability disappeared. The penny post teaches us something crucial about how consumer economics actually works. When a service is promised at a fixed low price and demand exceeds the capacity to deliver at that price sustainably, the system doesn't simply raise rates. It splinters, it creates complexity, it obscures cost. This pattern repeats. Streaming services offer one price, then add tiers, then regional pricing, then content restrictions. A simple promise becomes a matrix of conditions. It's not dishonest exactly, but it obscures the underlying economic pressure, the pressure that was always there. The penny post vanished not because anyone made a conscious decision to kill it, but because the economic model couldn't sustain the promise. The invisibility of that process, the way it fragmented into complexity rather than collapsing openly, is the real story. We're still living inside systems shaped by that same invisible pressure. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe to uncover the hidden economics buried inside the everyday systems you use, where the real cost is always more complex than the price tag suggests. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.